we're going to turn this piece of coil spring that we just cut into something like that. It's starting to get kind of cherry red in there. Grab that. Start straightening it out. Checking out the size, we're pretty close, and some of that can be ground. It looks like I've got to come back in the handle a bit. Once I get that all flattened out into a piece of bar stock, then I can start to trace out and grind and cut. This handle out. This is what we started with, coil steel. Coil steel is generally made out of 1095. It's a higher carbon content, which is going to mean that it's going to be a very hard knife. I'll have to anneal it and normalize it to make it not brittle. The blade part's going to be down in here. I'm gonna grind all this down. Right here is going to be our finger notch, and then I've tried to curve the handle a bit up. So I'll grind that and make a nice grip for it. So it's starting to take shape now. I'll have to do this with the die grinder, but it's starting to take shape. It's got a nice feel to the handle. The blade isn't too big. I'm thinking it's about where it needs to be now for shape. I just got to do some forming to it. So lots more sanding to do to get all the pits out and stuff, but it's going to be a nice knife. I might trim that off. Okay, so I've put a little bit of an edge on the knife now. You can sort of see that bevel coming into shape. It's just rough right now, and I took the die grinder right here, and I've made the finger notch, rounded it out, and now I'm working on the handle. The blade is getting there. It's not perfect, but it's close enough for me to at least start going on. It's nice and straight, and seems to be doing okay now. So I'll move on with the finer sanding and shaping the handle a little bit better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trace out the shape of the handle that I want, and I'm going to put I'm going to put the front part of the handle, I'm going to have it come out here a little bit, and I'm going to make that out of maple, and the rest of the handle is going to be made out of black walnut, which is this stuff. So it'll be a laminated two-part handle, and I'll put a brass rivet through the maple, and it'll give a good contrast. Now we want to make this a little bit big so that I can sand and grind down to the steel of the handle. There's our two sides, and then I have to figure out how thick I want to put the maple. Do I want to put it the whole way, or do I want to put it halfway? And I think I'm going to put it halfway, and it's only going to be up at the front. So here's the handle, the first start of the handle, and as you can see, I've made it a little bit big so that I've got some stuff to grind down to when I go into shaping the handle. To fit a hand. So here you can see the difference. I've touched up this one, and we've got a nice line there. The rest of that will sand out when we're shaping it to the actual steel on the handle. So now I need to decide where we want our brass dowels, and I'm thinking that one right in the center of this, somewhere around there, probably one somewhere here, and then one back here, and I might put a hole in here just for a tether or a tie if it's so desired. I'm not sure, but somewhere around here, and somewhere around there. They don't have to be exact, but I have to make sure they're exact when I drill through all three pieces, or else they won't line up when I go to glue them together. But it has to be drilled before the knife is heat treated. So something else that I also like to do is I like to thread the steel, and then I'll grind the rest of the brass bar rod. I'll grind it so that you don't have the thread showing on the outside. So I only want the threads on a little bit of the middle. So I'm just going to cut this. I'm going to form it first. I'm going to take away the threads on both sides that go through the handle. I'm going to leave a little bit of thread in the middle, because that's what's going to hold it into the handle and make sure it's not going to slip anywhere when I thread the handle. So this is what I was talking about. So I've left a little bit of thread in the middle of this one, and I've taken off the threads on both sides, and they'll go into the wood, and then they'll be peened over from the end to hold it in place, and it'll be epoxied. Now I'll just go and do this guy right here right now. So just measuring the diameter of the brass dowel. It's 250, so it's a 1/4 inch. So I'll find a 1/4 inch drill bit, and that'll be the one that goes right straight through the maple and the handle with no threads. So here we are. We've got the holes drilled in the handle for the dowels, and here's the dowels, the front one and the two back ones, and they go there. So now what I'll do is I'll transfer these holes onto the handle and drill the handle, and then I've got to tap the two back holes. So I have two holes in the handle, one here and one here. I haven't drilled my 1/4 hole up here. This is 5/16 NC 18, National Course 18, and that will hold our rods in for the back two, which are really going to give us the strength that we're looking for. Okay, so we've got them all in. All the dowels are in. The back two dowels are threaded. Everything's all lined up. Everything lined up nicely. And so now what we have to do is take everything apart again. And I'm going to clean up the blade a little bit, polish it up a little bit, and do some hand sanding on it up to about an 800 grit. And then I'll heat treat it. And then we can move forward from there. So we'll light up the forge. So the next step is we're going to take the blade, it's still hot, and we're going to put it on the barbecue for about, or in the oven, for about 2 hours at about 300 degrees, and that will normalize it, and it'll become right now it's very, very brittle, so we need it to normalize so that when you use it, it's not going to chip on you and break on you. Right now it's very brittle. If I drop it, it'll just shatter. So that's the next step. So we've got it on the smoker here. We're going to leave it for about 2 hours at about 350, 300, somewhere around there, and it'll normalize. So we'll just leave that for a couple hours and we'll come back. Okay, just doing some polishing on the blade now. Trying to get some of the dullness out of it. Been working away for a while here. It's semi-sharp. I've cleaned up the bevels. So next I'm going to tape the blade back up again and clean off the handle to get any compound that might be on there, rubbing compound. And I'm going to start working on the handle, and we'll assemble the handle. I'm adding a piece of cherry outside the oak and button it up against the maple. So I put the rear dowels in, the threaded ones, and I've actually epoxied those in place. So those are ready to go now. So now I'm just mixing up the epoxy to put the handles on, both sides of the handle. Mix that up really good so it's got a good mix. This is just 5-minute epoxy, so it sets up pretty quick. I want to spread that all in my holes and all over the face so that we'll get a really good bond. So we've got everything all together. It looks pretty blocky, and that's good because I've still got to do a lot of shaping to it. So we'll continue on. Still lots of blockiness to get out of that. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to take a round file, half round file, and this is where the index finger goes in the finger notch. So I want either a right-handed person or a left-handed person to be able to use it. So I'm gonna try and hollow this out a little bit, just where I've made my pencil marks here, and I'm going to come down from about there. I don't want to quite intersect with my rivet. And I'm going to do the same on this side, and I can just draw in a thin line there. And I'm just going to work away at that so that it can, if you can imagine somebody's finger sitting there. So again, doing the same thing on this side. I'm going to go down quite a bit because there's still quite a bit of meat to be taken off of this. I don't want to go around to the top, it'll change the shape of the top. And just bring it back so it's nice and smooth. The transition is smooth. That feels pretty good. I'll do this later with a smaller file up at the front, but I don't want to get into it with a bigger file in case I take off too much. So I've just done the first coat of everything, and I'm just giving it a bit of a touch up with 800 grit sandpaper. So that's one coat, and I've sanded it with 800, and we're just going to go ahead and apply another coat of urethane. Basically, this is what we started with the coil spring here, and this is what we ended up with. Once that cures and dries, I may give it another buff on the handle. I noticed a couple of air bubbles that are in there that I need to get out, so I'll get those out, and I need to buff that out. Other than that, it's pretty much a done deal.